Gasping in shock, Randy's eyes widened as he stared at the enormous angular hull looming out of the darkness, bristling with turrets and covered in strange symbols from an empire that once dominated the galaxy. The toxic oceans of Earth churned around the 25-year-old human archaeologist's submersible as he captured detailed scans of the 4,000-year-old Zarantine dreadnought. This was the find of the millennium, an ancient class of warship not seen since the legendary Zarantine were defeated by the coalition of 7 races. Excitement bubbled through Randy's veins. He couldn't wait to transmit this historic discovery to his superiors. Breaking the surface, Randy uploaded the data, but an hour later a Zarantine battlecruiser suddenly appeared in orbit. The blue, sneering face of High Commander Yaksa filled the screen as he hailed Randy's tiny sub. "The immediate return of Zarantine property is non-negotiable," Yaksa declared. That dreadnought was no mere ship. It was the Emperor's flagship, and it carried a priceless artifact, the source of our power to rule the galaxy for millennia. The Coalition lied about destroying it. Yaksa's eyes narrowed. "Return our ship and the artifact, and we may let humanity live as our subjects. Refuse, and in 24 hours your Mars colony dies, all 200 million, while Earth watches, helpless, before you too are destroyed." Randy's heart raced, mind reeling at the monumentality of the situation, all of humanity's fate in his hands. And as Yaksa's gaze twitched nervously, Randy realized with a start the alien was terrified the humans had already found this mysterious artifact, the key to the galaxy's future, buried under Earth's oceans for thousands of years. What the hell was it? Randy had to find out. The clock was ticking. Humanity's time was running out. Randy's hands shook as he slammed the transmit button, blasting an emergency communication to Earth's leaders. Within minutes, he was patched through to a secure conference with the President, top generals, and the chief xenoarchaeologist. "An ancient Zarantine dreadnought here, and a living Zarantine commander." The President sputtered in disbelief. "The Galactic Council swore they were extinct." "The Council lied," Randy said grimly. "And the Zarantine want their ship back or they'll destroy the Mars colony." Frantic debate erupted. Some urged immediate capitulation. Humanity was no match for the Zarantine. But others argued that surrendering would only delay the inevitable. Humanity needed a defense. "These scans," the chief xenoarchaeologist interjected, "am I reading this right? An antimatter reactor of this scale, this efficiency, it's centuries beyond even the Council's technology." Realization dawned. The dreadnought was the key. Unlocking its secrets could catapult human innovation forward by generations, give them a fighting chance. Randy made his case passionately. They had to try. The clock ticked. Impassioned arguments flew. Finally, a consensus. They would defy the Zarantine. Randy and an elite commando team would infiltrate the ship, find that reactor. In a clandestine launch, Randy and the soldiers shot towards the dreadnought in stealthed boarding pods. They sliced through the hull, emerging into eerie, cavernous corridors lit by ghostly blue lights. Consulting the scans, they navigated deeper into the labyrinth. Suddenly, walls slammed down around them. Hidden turrets swiveled and unleashed searing plasma. The commandos fired back, barely holding the deadly automated defenses at bay. Randy frantically consulted the ship's blueprints, searching for the reactor housing. There, barking orders, he led the strike team onward, cutting through bulkheads and ancient conduits. At last they breached the reactor chamber, but inside stood not an engine but a single glowing stasis pod. It cracked open with a hiss. A gaunt, towering figure rose from within, fixing piercing eyes on Randy. "Defiler," it spoke, voice dripping with ancient menace. Randy's gaze fell on a flickering hololog, the final record of the dreadnought's commander, the Zarantine Emperor's most fanatically loyal general, Korvath, sealed away in stasis, awaiting the day when the Zarantine would rise again. That day had come, and now General Korvath had a score to settle with the thieves who dared to desecrate his Emperor's flagship. The humans' time was up. Korvath stepped out of the stasis pod, ancient eyes boring into Randy. "You dare desecrate the Emperor's flagship? You know not what forces you meddle with." The Zarantine general's voice dripped with contempt. "Your species will pay the ultimate price for this sacrilege." He pressed a hidden button on his armor, sending a silent alert. High above on the bridge of the Zarantine battlecruiser, Yaxa flew into a rage as the signal came through. The humans had discovered the artifact. His worst fears were realized. Yaxa's lips curled into a vicious sneer. The humans had outlived their usefulness. He opened a channel to the human government. "This is your final warning," Yaxa declared. "You have 1 hour to hand over the artifact. Refuse, and I will destroy your Mars colony, your settlements on Luna and Titan, and then your homeworld itself." On the dreadnought, Korvath launched himself at the boarding party in a blur of motion. His first strike sent a commando flying into a bulkhead with a sickening crunch. Randy and the others opened fire, but to their horror, the plasma bolt seemed to bend around Korvath, leaving him unscathed. Korvath's fist slammed into another soldier's chest, caving in the battle armor like tinfoil. The commando dropped, blood leaking from his helmet. Randy stared in disbelief. What the hell was this monster? His eyes fell to a glowing disc embedded in Korvath's breastplate. The artifact. Comprehension dawned. Somehow it was warping gravity and inertia around the Zarantine, rendering their weapons useless. Even as Korvath cut through the strike team, he moved with purpose towards the dreadnought's command deck. The ship shuddered as millennia-dormant systems flickered to life. Weapon batteries emerged from the hull. Engines flared. The Zarantine warship was awakening. Seizing a momentary respite in the fighting, Randy whipped out a scanner and took frantic readings of Korvath and the anomalies the artifact was generating. He slammed his gauntlet against a bulkhead, transmitting the data burst back to Earth. Pray the eggheads could figure something out, because if they didn't, humanity was out of options. In a top-secret lab, Earth's brightest minds pored over the readings from Randy's team. "My God," a xenophysicist breathed. "These gravitational alterations, the space-time fluctuations, this artifact is millennia beyond anything we've seen." A murmur spread through the researchers, then a gasp. A quantum engineer stared at her screens in dawning horror. The dreadnought's antimatter reactor. It's ancient, unstable. The artifact is the only thing keeping it contained, and the humans just told that monster they're going to take it from him. Frantic calls flew across the solar system as the researchers relayed their findings. Humanity's leaders paled. They were out of time, out of options. Earth's fleets were still no match for a Zarantine warship. In desperation, they opened a secret channel to the Galactic Council. "You lied about the Zarantine," the human ambassador accused. "But that doesn't matter now. One of their dreadnoughts is active again on our world. We can destroy it, and the artifact powering it, but we need your help." The council members erupted into argument. Aid the humans, the primitive upstarts who had brought this danger to the galaxy in the first place. But as the debate raged, a chilling fact silenced them. A resurgent Zarantine empire was a threat to all. Reluctantly, the council agreed. On the dreadnought, Korvath slammed a fist into the last commando, sending her crashing to the deck in a clatter of armor. He turned burning eyes to Randy, the last human standing. "Your defiance ends now." Even as he spoke, the dreadnought broke the ocean surface in a flurry of roaring waves. In orbit, Yaxa watched the Zarantine flagship rise to join him. The war had begun again, at last, and this time the Zarantine would not be denied their revenge. The dreadnought exploded from the churning ocean in a geyser of steam and debris, water cascading off its angular hull in torrents. Yaxa's eyes widened as his sensors registered the enormous ship rising to join him in orbit. His shock turned to glee. At last the Emperor's flagship had returned. The Zarantine fleet would be whole once more. But Yaxa's triumph evaporated in an instant as a fusillade of plasma torpedoes and kinetic rounds slammed into his battlecruiser's shields. Dozens of ships flashed out of hyperspace all around him, sleek Aurelian frigates, heavily armored Krellian dreadnoughts, lightning-fast Vossic raiders, the combined might of the Galactic Council races, united against the Zarantine. "Impossible," Yaxer snarled, slamming a fist on his command chair. "The humans betrayed us." The bridge rocked as the Council barrage intensified. Alarms wailed and conduits ruptured, venting atmosphere. Yaxer roared orders to return fire. Lances of searing antimatter leapt from his ship's cannons, spearing a Krellian cruiser and a Vossic destroyer. The stricken vessels reeled away, hulls perforated and leaking plasma. On the Emperor's dreadnought, Randy and his battered team staggered to their feet as the Council fleet arrived. For a moment, relief flooded through them. They weren't alone. But an instant later, the bridge hatch exploded inward. Korvath strode through the smoke, eyes blazing with fury. He thrust out a hand and the humans slammed against the bulkheads, pinned by the inertial forces the Zarantine general manipulated through the artifact. "Fools!" Korvath bellowed. "Your council friends merely delay the inevitable. This ship is mine, the Zarantine will rise again, and the galaxy will tremble before us." Randy clawed at his throat, crushed by the invisible grip of Korvath's power. His vision tunneled. This was it. They'd failed. But in that instant, behind Korvath, one of Randy's commandos silently rose. The man's armor was cracked and sparking, barely functional, but his grav boots were fully disabled. Unnoticed amidst the chaos, the soldier crept up behind Korvath, reaching for the glowing artifact in his breastplate. With a titanic effort, the commando wrenched the disc free. Korvath staggered, his hold on the humans broken. He whirled to face the soldier, face contorted in outrage, but before he could strike, the commando slammed the artifact into a sparking circuit junction. A blinding flash erupted from the disc. Threads of crackling antimatter raced along the circuits, leaping to Korvath's armor, his skin. The Zarantine general screamed as the exotic matter devoured his flesh, dissolving him atom by atom until nothing remained but a fading after-image. The dreadnought lurched, ancient metal groaning in protest. Without Korvath and the artifact to sustain it, the ship's reactor containment was failing. Geysers of plasma burst from ruptured conduits. Electrical fires raced along the walls. "Go, go, go," Randy screamed, "to the shuttle bay." Battered and bloody, the remnants of the human strike team sprinted through the disintegrating ship. Bulkheads buckled around them. Atmosphere howled from breached compartments. They leapt through a collapsing hatch into the cavernous bay, pounding across the deck toward the sleek shapes of the ship's Atomus-class attack shuttles. Fast, agile, and atmosphere-capable, the craft were their only hope. Randy slapped the hatch controls as his team scrambled aboard the nearest shuttle. The portal hissed closed, and the small ship rocketed up the launch tube, the dreadnought tearing itself apart behind them. Explosions ripped through the ancient Zarantine dreadnought, tearing gaping holes in its hull. Bulkheads buckled and compartments decompressed, venting atmosphere and debris into the void. Propelled by pure adrenaline, Randy and his battered team sprinted through the disintegrating ship. The deck pitched beneath their feet as the dreadnought shuddered in its death throes. Conduits ruptured overhead, showering the humans with sparks. They leapt through a collapsing hatch into the cavernous shuttle bay. "Go, go," Randy screamed. Sleek, deadly Atomos attack shuttles beckoned from their docking clamps. The strike team pounded across the buckling deck plates. Behind them, a massive explosion consumed the rear of the bay, a wall of fire roaring towards them. Randy slapped the hatch control and dove into the nearest shuttle. The rest of the team piled in after him. The hatch sealed, and the small ship rocketed up the launch tube, riding a pillar of flame. Geese slammed the humans into their seats as the shuttle clawed for open space. The Zarantine flagship vanished behind them, a receding flare of light and debris. Then a second sun ignited in the void as the dreadnought's antimatter reactor finally lost containment. A spherical shockwave of incandescent plasma erupted from the detonation, an annihilating wave of heat and radiation. It slammed into the shuttle like the fist of an angry god. Randy fought the controls, actuators whining in protest as he fought to keep the tiny ship from tumbling out of control. Alarms shrieked, and red lights flashed across the board. With a titanic effort, Randy wrenched the shuttle into a semi-stable trajectory. Through the canopy, he glimpsed the assembled ships of the Council fleet, their angular hulls gleaming in the light of Earth. Suddenly a flare of light caught his eye. Randy turned to see a stricken Zarantine battlecruiser drifting in space, its hull perforated by Council fire. Aurelian Marines in combat armor clustered around an emergency seal over a ragged breach in the bridge. They dragged a blue-blooded figure out of the wreckage, High Commander Yaxer. The Marines hauled the grievously wounded Zarantine to the front of the bridge, forcing his head up to witness the flaming wreckage of the Emperor's dreadnought as it broke apart in Earth's upper atmosphere. Yaxer's lips peeled back from his teeth in a defiant snarl. "You've won nothing," he spat, blood flecking his lips. "The Zarantine will rise again, and humanity will be the first to burn for this treachery." A cold pit opened in Randy's stomach. He'd seen that look before, the look of a fanatic with nothing left to lose. Yaxer was beaten, but he still had one last card to play. The Zarantine battlecruiser's engines suddenly flared to life. The crippled ship accelerated, straining against the pull of Earth's gravity. Randy watched in dawning horror as he realized its trajectory. It was on a collision course with the human colony on Luna. The Council ships opened fire, unleashing a storm of plasma and kinetic rounds. But Yaxer's cruiser plunged onward, its failing shields flickering under the onslaught. It was going to make it. Randy could only watch helplessly as the Zarantine ship smashed into the moon in a cataclysmic impact. A massive shockwave raced outward, pulverizing human habitats and hurling debris into space. In an instant, millions of lives were snuffed out. Silence reigned on the shuttle's bridge. Randy felt numb, his mind refusing to process the enormity of what had just happened. Yaxer had sacrificed himself and his ship, all to lash out at humanity one last time. In the aftermath, the Council ships moved in, tractoring the wreckage of the dreadnought and sifting through the debris for the alien artifact. Randy watched grimly as they secured the ancient Zarantine technology, knowing that the Council races would jealously guard its secrets for themselves. The message was clear. Humanity was not to get ideas above its station. As far as the Council was concerned, they were primitive upstarts who needed to remember their place in the Galactic Order. Earth had repelled the Zarantine, but at a terrible cost. As the Council ships departed with their prize, Randy could only sit in silence, staring at the drifting debris that had once been humanity's first home beyond Earth. Lunar colony, gone in an instant, because one human dared to dream of challenging the might of ancient empires. Randy turned his gaze back to the blue marble of Earth below, heartsick and weary beyond words. Had it been worth it? Standing up to the Zarantine, losing so much? He didn't know anymore. All he knew was that as long as the Council races stood in judgment over them, humanity would never truly be free to forge its own destiny among the stars. The battle was over, but the war for humanity's future was just beginning. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.